Little Timmy loved playing with his toy cars. Zoom, zoom. He would make the car noises and crash them into towers of blocks he built. His dad, a strong and happy man, would always play with him. They would build the tallest towers, making Timmy giggle until his tummy hurt. They were best friends. One sunny afternoon, everything changed. Timmy's dad went to work like he always did, waving goodbye with a big smile. But that evening, he didn't come home. Instead, Timmy's mom came in with tears in her eyes and told Timmy that his dad had gone away. Timmy didn't understand. Gone away? Where? Would he be back to play cars tomorrow? The next few days were strange and sad. Timmy saw lots of people coming to his house, all dressed in black. They hugged his mom and cried. Timmy didn't understand why everyone was so sad. He just wanted his dad to come home and play. Then came the day of the funeral. Timmy was dressed in a little suit that felt scratchy. He was held tightly by his mom as they walked into a big, quiet room. There were so many people, all with sad faces. And right in the front of the room was a big, shiny box. Timmy didn't know what it was, but it made him feel uneasy. This was the day that would change everything, a day when something unbelievable would happen, all because of little Timmy and his love for his dad. The air felt heavy with sadness. Little did they know it was also heavy with a secret waiting to be revealed. The funeral home was quiet except for the soft sniffles and sobs of the mourners. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns on the floor. Timmy's mom held him close, her eyes red and puffy. She tried to smile at him, but it looked like a sad smile. Timmy looked around, confused. He saw lots of familiar faces, his aunts, uncles, and cousins, but they all looked different. Their eyes were downcast and their voices were hushed. It was nothing like the fun family gatherings he was used to, filled with laughter and games. The big, shiny box, the coffin, sat at the front of the room, surrounded by flowers. They smelled sweet, but Timmy didn't like them. They reminded him of the sadness he felt. He tugged at his mom's sleeve, wanting to go home, wanting his dad. The priest spoke in a gentle voice, saying kind things about Timmy's dad. He talked about how much he loved Timmy and how he was a good man. Timmy didn't understand all the words, but he knew they were about his dad. Timmy squirmed in his mom's arms. He was tired and wanted to play. He missed his dad's warm hugs and silly jokes. He wished he could just wake up and everything would be back to normal. But as the service continued, a strange feeling began to grow inside him. It was a feeling that something wasn't right, a feeling that would soon lead to the unbelievable. The quiet sobs and the priest's gentle words couldn't drown out the feeling that something was terribly wrong. After the priest finished speaking, people started lining up to walk past the coffin. Timmy's mom held his hand tightly as they joined the line. As they got closer, Timmy stared at the shiny box. It was bigger than he was, and it looked cold and hard. Suddenly, Timmy pulled his hand away from his mom and pointed a chubby finger at the coffin. "There," he said, his voice surprisingly loud in the quiet room. Everyone turned to look at him. His mom quickly hushed him. "Shoo, Timmy. Be quiet." She thought he was just being a toddler, not understanding the solemnity of the occasion. She tried to pull him along, but Timmy wouldn't budge. He pointed again, his little face scrunched up in concentration. "There, there," he repeated, his voice growing louder. He wasn't just pointing, he was pointing with a purpose. He was trying to tell them something. Some of the mourners frowned, thinking Timmy was being disrespectful. Others just sighed, understanding that he was too young to grasp what was happening. But Timmy didn't care about the stares or the hushes. He kept pointing, his small arm outstretched, his eyes fixed on the coffin. It was an insistent, unwavering point, a point that held a secret, a point that would soon unravel the unbelievable truth. He pointed and pointed, unaware that his simple action was about to turn grief into astonishment and despair into hope. The air crackled with an unspoken tension, all stemming from the unwavering focus of a 2-year-old's finger. Timmy's mom, Sarah, knelt down, trying to understand. "What is it, sweetie? What do you see?" she asked softly, hoping to distract him. She pointed to a nearby vase of lilies. "Look, Timmy, pretty flowers." But Timmy wasn't interested in the flowers. He pushed her hand away and pointed even harder at the coffin. "No. There," he insisted, his eyes wide and serious. Sarah sighed. She was exhausted and heartbroken. She just wanted to get through the funeral. She picked Timmy up, hoping to carry him past the coffin, but he started kicking and screaming, his little body wriggling in her arms. "There, Daddy! There!" he cried, his voice echoing through the room. Other family members stepped in to help. Aunt Susan offered Timmy a cookie, hoping to quiet him down. Uncle Joe tried to distract him with a shiny set of keys. But nothing worked. Timmy only wanted to point at the coffin. He doesn't understand, Sarah whispered to her sister, tears welling up in her eyes. He thinks Daddy is just sleeping. But as Timmy continued to point and cry, a seed of doubt began to sprout in Sarah's mind. Was it possible that Timmy knew something they didn't? Was it just a child's innocent misunderstanding, or was there something more to his insistent pointing? The idea seemed crazy, impossible, but the intensity in Timmy's eyes was undeniable. The room was filled with a growing unease, a sense that Timmy's innocent act was far more significant than they could possibly imagine. The persistent pointing created a ripple of discomfort throughout the room. Whispers started, hushed conversations about Timmy's behavior. Some people shook their heads, attributing it to a child's inability to understand death. Others cast worried glances at Sarah, unsure how to handle the situation. Maybe we should just take him outside, someone suggested, their voice barely audible. He's upsetting everyone. But Sarah couldn't bring herself to leave. A strange feeling had settled over her. A feeling that she couldn't ignore. It was as if Timmy was trying to tell them something important, something they needed to know. The silence in the room was broken only by Timmy's continued cries and pointing. Daddy! There! Daddy, hide! He wailed, the word hide barely audible amidst his sobs. Did he just say hide? Sarah's sister, Emily, asked, her brow furrowed. Sarah strained her ears, trying to decipher Timmy's words. He was babbling, mixing words together, but she thought she heard it too. Hide? She repeated, the word hanging in the air. A shiver ran down her spine. The idea was absurd, impossible, but the more she thought about it, the more unsettling it became. Why would Timmy say hide? What did he mean? The room felt colder now, the air thick with unspoken questions and a growing sense of dread. The innocent act of a child was transforming into something far more sinister, a chilling premonition of the unbelievable truth that lay hidden within the shiny box. The weight of grief was now mixed with a creeping horror. Grandma Rose, Timmy's dad's mother, had been sitting quietly in the corner, her face etched with grief. She had been lost in her own memories of her son, remembering his laughter and his kind heart. But Timmy's cries and pointing had slowly pulled her back to the present. She watched Timmy, her heart aching for his loss. He was so young, too young to understand what had happened. But then she heard it, that faint word amidst the sobs. Hide. Rose's eyes widened. She knew Timmy's babbling. She had spent countless hours listening to him learn to talk. And she was certain she heard him say hide. She slowly rose from her chair, her old bones creaking. She walked towards Sarah and Emily, her gaze fixed on the coffin. He's saying hide, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I heard him. He keeps saying Daddy, hide. Sarah and Emily exchanged a look of disbelief. Grandma Rose was old, and grief could play tricks on the mind. But there was a certainty in her voice, a conviction that couldn't be ignored. Mom, are you sure? Sarah asked gently. Rose nodded, her eyes filled with a strange mixture of hope and fear. I'm sure, she said. He's trying to tell us something. Something about hiding. The unsettling feeling in the room intensified. The whispers grew louder, more frantic. People started shifting nervously, their eyes darting between Timmy, the coffin, and each other. The air was thick with a growing sense of unease, a chilling premonition that something was terribly wrong. The unthinkable was beginning to seem possible. The seed of doubt had been planted, and it was quickly taking root. Overcoming their grief-stricken shock, Sarah and Emily exchanged hesitant glances. The thought was ludicrous, bordering on insane. But Timmy's unwavering insistence, combined with Grandma Rose's conviction, had planted a seed of doubt that was impossible to ignore. Maybe we should just take a closer look, Emily suggested, her voice barely a whisper. Sarah hesitated. The idea of questioning the identification of her husband's body, of potentially disrupting the solemnity of the funeral, felt sacrilegious. But the thought of ignoring Timmy's plea, of dismissing his innocent cries, was even more unbearable. Taking a deep breath, Sarah approached the coffin, her heart pounding in her chest. Emily and Grandma Rose followed close behind, their faces etched with a mixture of fear and anticipation. They stood before the shiny box, the object of Timmy's unwavering attention. Sarah reached out a trembling hand and gently touched the smooth surface. It felt cold and lifeless. What are we even looking for? Sarah whispered, her voice filled with doubt. Emily shrugged. I don't know. Anything that might explain why Timmy is saying hide. They leaned closer, straining their ears, listening for any sound, any indication that something was amiss. The room was silent except for Timmy's continued cries and the soft sobs of the mourners. But then, amidst the silence, Sarah thought she heard something. A faint, muffled sound. A sound that sent a shiver down her spine. It was coming from inside the coffin. The unbelievable was about to be revealed. The air grew heavy, charged with an almost unbearable tension. The moment of truth had arrived. Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, her eyes wide with disbelief. Emily and Grandma Rose strained their ears, their faces pale. They listened intently, holding their breath. And then they heard it too. A faint scratching sound, followed by a muffled groan. It was unmistakable. The sound was coming from inside the coffin. A wave of shock rippled through the small group. Disbelief warred with a growing sense of hope. Could it be possible? Could he still be alive? "We have to open it," Emily said, her voice trembling with urgency. Sarah hesitated, fear gripping her heart. What if they were wrong? What if it was just their imagination, fueled by grief and desperation? But the thought of ignoring the sound, of potentially burying her husband alive, was unbearable. With trembling hands, Sarah reached for the latch on the coffin. It was stiff and difficult to open, as if resisting their efforts. Finally, with a click, the latch released. The three women exchanged a nervous glance. This was it. The moment of truth. The moment that would either confirm their worst fears or reveal the unbelievable. Slowly, cautiously, Sarah began to lift the lid of the coffin. The hinges creaked in protest, the sound echoing through the silent room. As the lid opened wider, a sliver of light illuminated the interior. And then they saw him. Lying inside the coffin, pale and weak, but undeniably alive, was Timmy's dad. A collective gasp filled the air. The unbelievable had happened. A collective gasp swept through the room as everyone saw Timmy's dad, David, lying in the coffin. He was pale and weak, his eyes fluttering open and closed, but he was alive. The shock was palpable, disbelief painted on every face. The mourners, moments ago steeped in grief, were now frozen in stunned silence. Sarah rushed to David's side, gently touching his face. "David! David, can you hear me?" she cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. David's eyes fluttered open and he weakly turned his head towards Sarah. He tried to speak, but only a faint whisper escaped his lips. "Sarah! Timmy!" Emily quickly called for help, her voice shaking with a mixture of relief and terror. "Someone call an ambulance. He's alive. He needs help." The room erupted into chaos. Some people were crying, others were shouting, and still others were simply standing in stunned silence, unable to comprehend what was happening. The funeral, a somber occasion of mourning, had transformed into a scene of frantic activity and unbelievable hope. As the paramedics arrived and carefully lifted David from the coffin, Timmy, who had been watching the commotion with wide, confused eyes, finally stopped pointing. He ran to his dad, reaching out to touch his hand. "Daddy," he cried, his face lighting up with joy. "Daddy, come out." The paramedics worked quickly to stabilize David, placing him on a stretcher and rushing him out of the funeral home. Sarah followed close behind, her hand clasped tightly in his. The unbelievable had happened and a miracle was unfolding before their eyes. The question now was, how? How could this have happened? How could David have been declared dead when he was still alive? The answers, they knew, would be as shocking as the discovery itself. At the hospital, after what felt like an eternity, a doctor finally emerged to speak with Sarah and Emily. They held their breath, bracing themselves for whatever news he had to share. "Mr. Davidson is stable," the doctor said, his voice grave. "He's still unconscious, but his vital signs are improving. It's remarkable that he's alive at all." He explained that David had been in a severe accident, sustaining serious head injuries. He had been found unconscious at the scene, and after an initial examination he had been mistakenly identified as deceased. A mix-up at the hospital, a tragic error, had led to the unthinkable. He was in a coma, the doctor continued. A very deep coma. It's possible that his brain activity was so minimal that it was undetectable. But somehow he survived. Sarah and Emily were stunned. The explanation was unbelievable, almost as unbelievable as finding David alive in the coffin. A mix-up, a mistake, it seemed impossible that such a thing could happen. When David finally regained consciousness, days later, he confirmed the doctor's explanation. He remembered the accident, the blinding lights, and then nothing. He had been trapped in a dark, silent world, unaware of the chaos and grief that his supposed death had caused. He had no memory of being in the coffin, of the funeral, or of Timmy's insistent pointing. He only knew that he had woken up in a hospital bed, surrounded by his loving family, given a second chance at life. The truth was out, and it was as unbelievable as the miracle that had saved him. The funeral home's mistake was a terrible one, but Timmy's intuition had corrected it. David's recovery was slow but steady. He had to relearn how to walk, how to talk, and how to do many of the things he had once taken for granted. But with the unwavering support of his family, he made remarkable progress. Sarah stayed by his side, encouraging him every step of the way. Emily helped with Timmy, making sure he understood that his daddy was getting better. And Grandma Rose, with her quiet wisdom and unwavering faith, provided a constant source of strength. Timmy, of course, was overjoyed to have his dad back. He would sit by David's bedside, chattering about his toy cars and his building blocks. He didn't fully understand what had happened, but he knew that his daddy was home, and that was all that mattered. As David grew stronger, the family began to piece together the events that had led to the unbelievable discovery at the funeral. The hospital apologized profusely for the mix-up, acknowledging the devastating error that had been made. The funeral home also issued a statement expressing their deepest regret and promising to review their procedures to prevent such a mistake from happening again. But amidst the apologies and explanations, one question remained: how had Timmy known? How had he sensed that his father was still alive, trapped inside that coffin? There was no logical explanation, no scientific reason. It was as if Timmy possessed a special connection to his father, a bond that transcended the boundaries of life and death. Everyone realized that Timmy's insistence had saved his father's life. It was a gift, an intuition that defied explanation. The family now understood the power of a child's innocent love. The story of Timmy and his dad spread like wildfire. News reporters clamored to interview the family, wanting to understand the unbelievable miracle that had occurred. Timmy, however, was too young to understand the attention. He just knew that his daddy was back, and that made him happy. Experts weighed in, offering various theories about Timmy's intuition. Some suggested it was a form of extrasensory perception, a heightened awareness that children sometimes possess. Others believed it was simply a matter of chance, a lucky coincidence. But whatever the explanation, everyone agreed that Timmy's actions had been extraordinary. He became known as Timmy the Miracle Boy, the little boy who had brought his father back from the brink of death. People from all over sent cards and gifts, expressing their admiration and gratitude. Sarah and David were overwhelmed by the outpouring of support. They knew that they had been given a second chance, and they were determined to make the most of it. They cherished every moment with Timmy, appreciating the simple joys of family life. They also made it their mission to raise awareness about the importance of patient advocacy, urging people to question medical diagnoses and to trust their instincts when something didn't feel right. They wanted to ensure that what had happened to David never happened to anyone else. Timmy's innocent act had not only saved his father but had also sparked a conversation about the power of intuition and the importance of questioning assumptions. The world marveled at the incredible story of a little boy and the unbelievable power of love. The funeral home, mortified by their error, offered a full apology and covered all of David's medical expenses. They also implemented new protocols to ensure that such a mistake would never happen again. While their remorse couldn't undo the pain and trauma the family had experienced, it was a step towards healing. David, Sarah, and Timmy eventually returned to their normal lives, but they were forever changed by what had happened. They cherished every moment together, knowing how close they had come to losing each other. David made a full recovery, regaining his strength and his zest for life. He and Timmy resumed their building block sessions, their laughter filling the house once again. But now there was a deeper understanding between them, a silent acknowledgement of the extraordinary bond that had saved David's life. Sarah, too, had a new perspective on life. She had learned the importance of trusting her instincts and of never underestimating the power of a child's love. She became an advocate for families facing medical crises, sharing her story and offering hope to others in need. And Timmy, the little boy who had pointed at a coffin and sparked a miracle, continued to grow and thrive. He may not have fully understood the significance of his actions, but he knew that he had done something special, something that had brought his daddy back from the brink. He was a testament to the power of love, intuition, and the unbreakable bond between a father and son. The family's unbelievable experience had transformed their lives, teaching them valuable lessons about faith, hope, and the enduring power of love. Years passed, and Timmy grew into a bright and happy young man. He never forgot the day he pointed at his father's coffin, but it became less of a defining moment and more of a cherished family story. He understood in his own way that he had played a part in something extraordinary. David and Sarah made sure that Timmy knew how much they loved him and how grateful they were for his presence in their lives. They told him the story of the funeral, often emphasizing the power of his love and intuition. The family continued to advocate for patient rights and to share their story with others. They wanted to inspire hope and to remind people that miracles can happen even in the darkest of times. And so, the tale of Timmy, the little boy who pointed at a coffin and brought his father back to life, became a legend, a testament to the power of love, intuition, and the unbreakable bonds of family. It was a story that would be told and retold for generations to come, a reminder that even the smallest of actions can have the most profound consequences. The unbelievable had happened, and it had changed their lives forever, solidifying their belief in the extraordinary power of the human spirit and the unwavering force of familial love. The memory of that day served as a constant reminder to cherish every moment and to never lose faith in the possibility of miracles. It was a story of loss, grief, and ultimately an unbelievable triumph of love. And so, the unbelievable story of Timmy, the 2-year-old who pointed at his father's coffin, serves as a powerful reminder of the extraordinary connections that bind us together. It's a testament to the strength of familial love, the power of intuition, and the possibility of miracles even in the face of unimaginable loss. Timmy's innocent act, his unwavering insistence that his father was still present, became a symbol of hope for countless others. His story echoed through communities, inspiring people to trust their instincts, to question assumptions, and to never give up on the possibility of a positive outcome no matter how bleak the circumstances may seem. The family's bond, forged in the crucible of grief and disbelief, emerged stronger than ever. They learned to cherish every moment, to appreciate the simple joys of life, and to never take their love for granted. The unbelievable event at the funeral transformed their lives, imbuing them with a profound sense of gratitude and a deep understanding of the fragility of life. They carried this understanding with them, using it to inspire others and to make a positive impact on the world. Timmy, the little boy who pointed at a coffin and unknowingly sparked a miracle, grew up knowing that he was loved beyond measure and that his actions had made a difference. His story became a beacon of hope, a reminder that even the smallest of us can possess the power to change the world one pointed finger at a time. The end.